All right, welcome back and thanks for staying with us. It's still Rapid Down right here on Rapid TV. And you have been hanging out with myself all morning from 7 a.m. And this is 9 a.m. Never alone, of course. I've got Victor Ake
That's right.
always seating right beside me.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what the weather of today is like. It's been raining non-stop. And I was just saying to our guest, like, it's been raining throughout July. And we know August to be the whole rainfall month and what have you. So I'm wondering what's going to happen in August since we already had the rains so constant in July. But, you know, like I said to you guys, the singles do what the singles need to do, you know, and if you need to get to work as early and as much as possible. Rain's not an excuse to be lazy.
Of course
because
not.
I am Victor. We've been here all
Yeah,
morning.
we have. And the truth is, we have every reason to stay on our bed. You know, but of course, we have a duty, a responsibility to be here and do our work, right? And I'm sure that you also have your duty, have a responsibility out there. So please, for the sake of your responsibility and duties, you've got to stand up and go do what you need to do this morning.
Don't get
Right.
fired. We ain't got no job to do. Anyways, today's conversation, like we said from the start of the day, is one that concerns every single one of us, not just us here on TV, right? When we talk about Nigeria and the identity that we have across the world, it is something that Nigeria has gradually become a cautionary tale. You know,
Truly.
A country so rich, you know, diverse in culture, people that are excellent and skilled, yet we don't get the kind of recognition that we deserve because there's a certain kind of identity that we have or reputation that we have built for ourselves. Now, it's easy to want to blame the politicians. It's easy to want to blame the social sector. It's easy to want to blame your boss and blame everybody else but yourself. And like I said this morning, which I will reiterate, the fact that it has gotten to this point, it's a contribution of what each of us has, what we have done, you know, where we are, how we say what we say, the kind of image we portray online, and all of this put together is what has brought us to the point that we are right now. Our guest today believes that a country is more than GDP and elections, and it's an idea, a brand. So what happens when that brand becomes like a cautionary tale? So everybody wants to be weary of Nigeria. And how do we reclaim this identity? For today's conversation, we have Mr. Baba Awopetu. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. Pleasure
morning,
to
sir.
join this morning.
So good to have you here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to come and speak on one of my favorite topics, branding combined with Nigeria.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so let's just have a little bit of background to what branding is and how you got into branding.
That's a good one. So branding is the crystallization of what an organization or country or an individual represents, how you summarize it all together. And the interesting thing is there are two parts to branding. There's a story in terms of what do we represent, what do we have to offer, but there's also the element of branding, which is about what we are. And often what tends to happen is that the characteristics and the building blocks of branding can be in place, but if we don't tell the story. So what we say is that we need the facts around what we're offering,
Right.
and then we need to be able to sell the story and the story part, and bringing the two together allows us to have an effective brand.
Okay. All right. What do you think? Because now you have the benefit of knowing from diverse perspectives. You know what the Nigerians think about themselves. You also know what the Western world thinks about Nigeria. What do you think about this image that we have?
Yeah, so there's no question that Nigeria's image and its brand, it's below what it should be. Basically, Nigeria's brand should be worth more than maybe we're currently able to get in the international marketplace. So I think that Nigerians are individually, we're proud, we know what we're capable of, but I think often one of the challenges is that perhaps we give a bit too much emphasis to what is wrong and to the challenges that we have, and that accentuates it. And I think externally, unfortunately, somehow it is a lot of those stories and those elements about Nigeria.
Right.
It's what's often been given too much credence, but there's no question that it is a brand with incredible potential, and the potential is because of the characteristic, because of the building block, because all of the good things that can happen and is happening, and that we've got to lead that and tell the story about what that can lead to and what's possible, and what Nigerians can contribute to the global economy and global marketplace.
Now, you talked about telling stories as it is. Many Nigerians tell the stories, right? You've also emphasized the fact that we talk about mostly negative stories. And some Nigerians will say to you, well, we're just telling our truth. You know, those negative things that Nigerians talk about on social media, those things happen in the country, right? But if you look at the negativity, it has taken a hold, right? But how do we drop this balance to ensure that the good sides of Nigeria overrides the negative aspect of the nation being sold out?
Yeah, so I think that the what I'm going to say is a difficult message to sell, in the sense that the challenges that people talk about and some of the negative story, at least a significant proportion of it is fair and just.
Yeah.
I think the challenge is that one is that we need the balance, because there are a lot of good things also that are going on, that are happening, and a lot of good characteristics about Nigerians.
Right.
And if we don't tell the story, other countries are not going to tell they feed off what they hear from us. And if we say things are not great, we cannot expect the Americans or the British or the French to be the ones to encourage us that is great. So I think that it is fair that there are challenges, but I think somehow, I know it's difficult, we have to, when we do see positive things, when we do see some of the great things that are starting to happen, that are characteristics of our nation, we have to tell those stories a lot better.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, go on, Martha.
All right. You know, I think sometime last year, or 2023 rather, when the recent or the current president, you know, got into office, and we had a lot of talks about why was the Nigerian national anthem changed at all. You know, the previous one sold Nigeria better. You know, it was more defining of who Nigeria is. So the Nigerian rebranding Nigeria, right? It is beyond optics, mere optics. It's beyond changing the logo or changing the anthem. What does it really entail, rebranding Nigeria?
Yeah, so I think that rebranding Nigeria entails each individual Nigerian changing our mindsets about how we perceive our country, and the stories that we decide to tell and to accentuate about our countries. You know, sometimes it's like when you have a family, and there can be challenges within the family. But when you are talking about your family externally, you don't start with the negative, you don't lead with the negative. Now, I know in this situation that people are facing definite, genuine challenges. However, on the building block to get to Nigeria fulfilling its enormous potential, we have to be the encourager at each step along the way. And it's this piece around, we either talk about all the things that are wrong, or we try to find the things that are going in the right direction and really start to talk about it. So I think the rebranding is going to be about really changing mindset. Now, of course, we need leadership. We need to understand also the brand Nigeria is all of us. It's what we do. It's the actions that we take and how we interact with one another.
Now, you've talked about the fact that, yes, the brand is ours, right? Well, you also talked about the fact that we need to pay attention to leadership, right? So if you look at the whole rebranding of Nigeria, to an extent, it begins with those at the helms of affairs, the leaders of our nation, because they are the ones who go out there more, representing the country more. The average Nigerian travels out for his personal purpose. And so whichever thing he or she does is for the purpose of meeting their personal needs. Now, in situations where our leaders, you know, have not given Nigerians even a good reason to market Nigeria in a better way, how do we now bring this balance again to the fore?
No, I think it's fair, and I think that leaders are leaders because they lead and we follow. So it is fair to put it at the seat of the leaders to lead this process of rebranding.
Yeah.
Having said that, though, I think that to the extent that also you can have a ground uprising that individually that we can change the narrative about what we focus on, and despite the challenge, you know, one of the great characteristics of our nation is this resilience that we have. And I don't want it to become a negative. So because we're resilient doesn't mean that we should, we should take advantage, or we should have, burden beyond what's necessary. Having said that, I think that we can leverage that to just decide to make sure that we're proud of our country, and that when we do talk about our country, that we can criticize the things that are wrong, but we have to make sure that we're accentuating many, many great things. And I think that there's many great things about this nation that the world is not fully accustomed to. They don't understand, they don't fully appreciate. And I think that appreciation is coming, and we're starting to see some green shoots there.
All right.
So let me just add this. A real life scenario, a real life story about my friend. We were having a conversation sometime, and he said to me, Victor, I lost this gig, which was supposed to give him about 50,000 US dollars. And the reason was because he was Nigerian. Now, talking about marketing in Nigeria, this guy lost this deal. This would have been a life-changing deal for him, his family, and his business. But he lost it because he's Nigerian. If he's going to tell his story...
How do you explain such a thing to
tell his story?
So in that situation, the reality is obviously a very negative one. What I would hope is that the talent that brought the 50,000 deal to the table in the very near future will bring more and bigger opportunities. No, I think that's the case. But having said that, Nigerians are doing wonderful things across the world. That's just the reality. We are an important nation in Africa, in the world at large. And when you look at it, whether it's in the US, the UK, France, across the world, the contributions of Nigerians are largely positive. Unfortunately, the negative part of it gets accentuated. And my argument is that what we have to ask ourselves is that in whose interest is it that these negative interests are accentuated above some of the positive things that we clearly contribute?
Okay. Now, the Nigerian passport ranks amongst the weakest globally, say 92, the 92nd in the world, like one of the weakest passports that we have. Now, is our weak mobility, is it a branding issue? Because you'd hear most times Canada, I think I sent you a link that was talking about how Canada put restrictions on Nigeria. The UK is doing what it's doing. In fact, in the last 1 month, we've seen the UK put very strict rules. They say people who have doctors now, that visa that's been given to doctors and they can take their family with them, they've suspended that. And for people to have sponsorship to stay in the UK, it's become really difficult. Now, do you think it's because of our brand, or it's a symptom of like a deeper institutional flaw? Especially because not just are the people portraying Nigeria in the light that people now understand, the government also does its part. They've called us lazy Nigerian youth. They've called us incapable of doing anything. We just want to make money easy and all of that. So do you think it is because of our branding, or it's a deeper institutional flaw that we're dealing with on the global scene or in the global scene?
Yeah, I think that the global scene is a little bit complex in the sense that the pressures in nations like Canada, US, and UK are some of the internal challenges in those countries are playing out in many ways. So, for example, there's a lot of pressure to try to reduce net migration into the country, only simply because of the fact that some of those nations are facing challenges themselves. Now, Nigerians come into focus because we're a large nation, and then also as well, we're very ambitious. I mean, Nigerians are ambitious, and if we see opportunity, we usually try to find a way. And so sometimes when doors of opportunity comes up, because of the speed at which we address and we try to take advantage of those challenges, sometimes it comes to their attention. And some of these restrictions, I don't necessarily think that that's necessarily a branding issue. I would also say this, that there will come a point in time when probably this scenario will be reversed. They will be requesting for us to come, as has been the case in the past. And remember, 70% of this nation are under 30, so relatively young. There's a lot of human resource, a lot of capital that can be deployed. I think we are in a cycle at the moment where, because of the global political scenario, I think it is more to do with that. I think generally, at least my feeling when I interact with people internationally, I don't get that negative feeling. I think people see Nigerians as ambitious, driven, highly educated, and so forth. But when the story is told, sometimes we end up focusing on some of the more negative
Yeah.
aspects.
Okay, let's talk about a classic example of Nigerians selling out Nigerian shots. Kemi Badnoch, for instance.
Yeah.
We saw a video where she categorically said that the Nigerian passport is useless and she'd not be able to do anything at all with the passport. She even said in that interview that as long as it depends on her, she'll make it difficult for Nigerians to get into, get their British citizenship and all of that because of the position, again, that she holds there. One might want to criticize Kemi to say, you shouldn't talk about your country like that. If you are a patriotic Nigerian, then you have to speak better of your country.
Right.
You have to, stay true to your country regardless of your shortcomings and what have you. But this is a woman being that has experienced a lot of difficulties. I think at the time when she wanted to get her passport to travel back to where she was coming from and all of that, she experienced like great difficulty. And this is the reason that she has this mindset being built up and all of that. Now, how do you think we can control this? Because of the position that she wields where she is a voice that will be listened to, right? How do we create a balance between this? Because again, you cannot stop people from expressing exactly how they feel, because how they feel is how they feel. But on the other hand, there's the image and the identity of a country to preserve. How do we create a balance?
Yeah, I think this is a really tricky one, because I think that obviously she is an authority when she speaks about
she is.
Nigeria because of who she is.
Right.
And it's not the same as if a white English person were to say that.
Sure.
I think a lot of it has its roots in politics, in the sense of a political affiliation. And I think at the moment, as I said, there is a general consensus about trying to stem migration. And she happens to be in a party that's a little bit at the forefront of that. And I can only imagine that a lot of this is more driven by politics than by reality. I think it's fair that regardless of whether her roots are Nigerian or whether she's Nigerian, that she should be able to express what she believes to be truth. I also think that it would be fair to say, because she's Nigerian, she should not necessarily have a policy that says all Nigerians should be able to come in. But I think that probably she's taken a stance which is a little bit unnecessarily harsh and difficult to understand, because I think that the Nigerians in the UK contribute. I think that they contribute in many ways, and I don't think that it's justifiable. What I do think is that we need the opposition to Kemi that tells the opposing story about the contributions that Nigerians make in the UK, in the US, in Canada, in the amount of Nigerian doctors in IT, in all sorts of areas, and even in the care industry, which led to the recent issue of people coming in to do work that British were not willing to do, wouldn't want to do, and yet people, and by the way, people who are educated, usually above that. I mean, I lost my dad just over a year ago, and when I had to give a speech, one of the things I said is that one of the things I'm most proud of is that he left the UK, he left Nigeria as a qualified engineer, and he was practicing, and then he was working with an NPC at the time. And when he left and got to the UK, it was very difficult for him to get into work, and he did all sorts of menial jobs, despite the fact he was a master qualified. That's the story of many Nigerians, of people who are, and there is no more definition of hard work than when you're willing to do work that, regardless, and that's what Nigerians do. And a lot of these people who work in the care industry, when they actually look at their quality, their qualification, they're usually above what you would normally expect for that industry. And I think we need more people to tell this kind of story. And I genuinely think that it does start with all of us, just to check and make sure that whilst we justifiably criticize the country, we also find the excuses and the reasons and the good things that are going on, and we make sure we tell stories about that.
Don't you think that this could be a challenge? We have many Nigerians who leave the country to the Western world, and the reason is for greener pasture. That tells the story alone. right? Because one of the stories it tells is that our country is not able to provide for us that stability that we desire. And so professional Nigerians will leave their professional careers in Nigeria and go over to the UK or the Western world and do menial jobs, right? And we've had maybe previous, not administration now, older generations tell younger people, find a way to leave the country for greener pasture. That story alone, that experience alone is not also a form of demarketing.
No, I think that the economic disparity cannot be denied, right?
Yeah.
It can't be denied. And I think that that does creates this situation which is imbalanced and unfair. And I do think that you would be right in saying that the sooner we accelerate our economic performance, our employment situation, the better. Because obviously that's going to mean that we can keep the talent that we have.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. I think that's a reality that we can't deny. And obviously these countries, be it UK, US, or Canada, take advantage of their economic power that they've got. And I think that's largely what's leading to that. And there we have got work to do. But I think that one thing I notice is that if you look at all of the projections for 2050, for 2100, and you look at even on a current trajectory, Nigeria is projected to land in a very interesting place, both in terms of population size, economic growth. So even on the current trajectory, so I think that things will get, I'm pretty convinced that things will get better. There's no question about it. I understand the fact that for those who are sitting in the middle of difficulties right now, things will get better doesn't serve and doesn't land very well. I genuinely appreciate that. And I say it with all humility, understanding that things will get better is not what they want to hear. They want to hear things will get better faster. And that's for our leaders to hopefully try to accelerate and to make things get better much faster.
That's right.
There's this very common saying you hear people say, like, do not cast your pearls before swine, right? Which is just, do not give your valuable gifts to people who don't know the value of what you're giving. Do you think this is the case of Nigeria? Because our borders are open to literally anybody. In fact, this year alone, we've seen a lot of Nigerian women get married to white men. And upon like critical research into the life of these men, you discover that they're criminals, where they're coming from. And then they come to Nigeria, they settle here just because they have criminal records elsewhere. It's the same thing, not just with that case. In a lot of sectors, you see people who mine, foreigners who come to Nigeria. Our gates are literally open to anybody. Do you think this also plays a part in the demarketing and devaluing of Nigeria? I
think that it's definitely, it's a side effect of the scenario, partly because of the economic disparity that we talked about. That does mean that. I think that, but there's no question that to point that there is an argument that we should, let's say, start to behave like where we're going rather than where we're coming from. There's no question about it. And I think in that sense, but these things just requires a bit of balance in terms of, at the moment, we're also trying to get inward investment. We're trying to be open. So there's a balance to be struck there. But I don't think that we should be accepting criminals or just anybody. There does need to be some standard, and we need to exercise relevant pride in our nation.
Truly. Now, a lot of questions we ask, as a matter of fact, that's also crossed my mind. We said, let's talk about the good things that happens in the country, Nigeria. And sometimes we try to search our heads, that's our minds.
So much.
No, but you're here, to help us market Nigeria better. What is one thing, or two, or even three things that you can say that this is working in Nigeria? We can hold on to it, even as young people, to say, of all the wrong things that are going on in our country, Nigeria, these are the things that we can talk about that are working.
Well, I think that I actually think there's a number. I think that a lot of the things that are going on in the tech industry is pretty impressive. The fact that there are 5 unicorns in Lagos. In fact, I think that there was a research recently that said that the Lagos is currently ranked as the fastest growing global tech. So, and that if that trend continues, that means jobs. That means that it's going to accelerate our economic growth. And by the way, I'm not surprised about that when you think about the ambition, the talent that we have on
Yeah.
ground. And then I think also as well, generally, our digital infrastructure, certainly from what I can observe, seems to work pretty well, seems to be accelerating as things go. I mean, recently we had, for the first time, refinery open that's within Nigeria. So I think that there are some green shoots. Of course, we would like there to be many, many more, but I think there's some green shoots that I could look at and say that despite all of the difficulties that we're facing, that things are getting better and that things can, the green shoots of what could be possible. It's a little bit like the story of the caterpillar and the butterfly. And everybody sees a butterfly at a different point in the journey. I think that the ingredient, the challenge we have is that this story about Nigeria's got great potential is a whole story, and people have heard it many, many times.
I'm tired of it.
They're tired of it. Yeah, and they're saying, when is it going to happen? But I would only say that, for example, if I could just use a stock market as an example, if you would look at something like Amazon, Amazon's stock market was tracking flat for many, 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 many years. And then at a point in time, it exploded. This happens in stock. We see this in many areas. The fact it has not happened, I think that we should not let it put us off the fact that inevitably it's going to happen. I always remember once, I can't remember which country I visited, we went to one of these volcanic spots and we're standing on top of one of these, and they did some demonstration to demonstrate that it was very warm. And the whole story was that inevitably that volcano is going to explode and it's going to release. And I think that Nigeria is a little bit like that with the mix of what we've got, it's inevitable that it will work because it's infrastructural. It's, we've got numbers, we've got talent, we've got ambition. And by the way, the fact that we've got this mix of ethnics and language and religion, and we manage it pretty well. That's something that we can teach many other countries in the world.
That's right.
Well, it's pretty hard to tell Nigerian that we're going to erupt pretty soon because myself, alongside Victor, Mr. Baba seems to be like very enthusiastic about Nigeria. And this is something that a lot of Nigerians are not like enthusiastic about it. Because like you said, it's an old tale. We've heard it for so long. Nigeria's going to be great. How long is it going to take? I mean, we see other African countries doing exceptionally well. Their currencies are doing exceptionally well as well. But we still grapple with a lot of things. But let's just put up an optimistic front, like he said, and hope that Nigeria gets better. Yes, if you're just joining us, it's Rapid Dawn on Rapid TV, and we have been hanging out with Mr. Baba at Wopetu, and we're talking about Nigeria, rebranding Nigeria, and creating, a remarkable historical identity. But we will go out on a very short break, and when we get back, we'll keep up with the conversation. Please keep it locked in.
This is Rapid Broadcasting Network, RBN. We connect people, power stories, and amplify voices. On Rapid TV, we're rooted in culture and your window to the stories that matter. From news to lifestyle, we inform, entertain, and uplift. Join Rapid TV on Star Times Channel 176, Nightcom Sat. On Rapid FM, we speak your language from the soulful airwaves of Umuahia to the vibrant culture of Port Harcourt and beyond. More than broadcasters, we're creators, amplifying that voice within with powerful content across TV, radio, and digital. Join us at rbnradiotv.com and all our social media handles. One network, one voice. Rapid Broadcasting Network, RBN, the sound of your city. Rooted in truth, driven by impact.
My name is Akio Sakiodo.
Hey guys, this is Anto Lecky.
My name is Leo Bliss.
My name is Akava, go by the name Baba D.
And you're tuned into Rapid TV. I love Rapid TV.
Shout out Rapid TV. Thank you, Rapid TV. Please keep watching
Rapid TV.
This is Rapid TV.
Rapid
TV.
Keep watching.
Keep it down.
Leave it like that.
back and thanks for staying with us. MCR said to keep the break very short, and we're back here again to keep up the conversation about rebranding Nigeria and creating a solid historical identity. And to have that conversation, we have been hanging out with Mr. Baba Awopatu. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Yeah.
Pleasure.
All right. I hope you've been having a good time on the show, though.
It's fantastic.
All right, now let's move to the very next question. We've never truly had a unified brand identity as Nigerians, a country of 200 million people. You know, we lack a coherent, unified identity. So the question is, what would a clear national identity do for Nigeria, especially as regards bringing investors into Nigeria and the global reputation and regaining the confidence of Nigeria?
Yeah, I think that what it will do is that at the moment, Nigeria, when we don't brand ourselves and we don't have a clear identity, that means that our identity ends up being given to us. So we end up owning what other people say.
Yeah.
And so a clear identity would mean that people, you know, they know what we're offering, they know who we are, and they know what to look for.
Yeah.
And then actually it means that, you know, it's the old story when they say that if someone says a pink elephant, all of a sudden that's the image that you have in your mind. So we direct people in terms of what they should look for, what they should expect from us as a nation, and it's unifying. It's unifying and allow those who want to interact with Nigeria, then they'll interact with us as a nation on any basis, and they know what to expect, and it will be a reflection of who we are. The key thing is that with branding is that we're not talking about trying to sell what we're not.
Okay.
We're simply trying to sell what we are. And some of what we are that we're not selling at the moment is some of what we talked about, the resilience, the ambition, the fact that we manage so many languages, so many religions so well and still held together, and the talent base that we have and the numbers that we have, and all of these elements are not really well understood. And I think once we fix some, and we do have some infrastructural work on the ground to do, but once we fix some of those, I think that there's no question about it that the identity will accelerate our growth potential.
All right. So despite our brilliant diaspora and cultural exploits, like you have mentioned, we still have a global reputation of fraud. So how do we deploy or shift the attention from fraud to substance, now from a branding perspective?
Yeah. What is that to the end? As I said, part of it is that we need to treat some of these elements like fraud, that's often talked about, as the minority that they are. It's not the big story. It's unfair to think of Nigeria and to think fraud and for that to be a fair reflection. There are people that engage in fraud in Nigeria like there are on many nations on earth. And I think that what we all have to do is to acknowledge where that's taking place and to take the necessary actions that we can. But ultimately, we've got to tell the story about the good things, about our doctors, our lawyers, our entrepreneurs, the people that are going and helping in other countries, the people that are helping to build the resilience of Nigerians, the level of education, all of these elements. And we've got to all talk more about that. And I would simply say that anytime a conversation comes up about Nigerian and fraud, we should challenge it. We should challenge it because it's neither true nor fair. It's an incorrect assumption. It would be no different. I mean, if you looked at the US or the UK, you could find many negative stories to tell about those countries.
Mr. Weber, with all of the optimism that you have about Nigeria, let me put you on the spot a little bit. Say your son comes to you and says, Daddy, I want to build a life in Nigeria, living maybe the UK, right? And then decides to come back to Nigeria with all of the opportunities that are in the UK, for instance, and then says, with the economic reality of Nigeria, I want to come back to Nigeria and build a life. Would you, knowing the things that you know about Nigeria, the current realities about Nigeria, would you be proud? Would you encourage that son of yours to come back to the country and build a life?
Oh, no, I think there's a simple answer to that question. 100%. That's an easy one. That's an 100% yes. 100%
Okay.
yes.
Really?
Absolutely. Because, well, 100% yes. And I would also be fair to say that maybe it's easier for me to say yes than maybe for other people. But absolutely, I would encourage it. Yeah, I would love that. I mean, to connect back. And I always think that no matter what we do in whether it's UK, US, Canada, and so forth, there's nothing that can represent or have the same kind of impact or meaning as what we do in Nigeria. So no, I would 100% support and encourage. Not because I'm not aware of the challenges, but despite that.
Yeah. All right. Spoken like a true patriotic Nigerian. Putting the face as well, putting his mouth where his money is.
The average Nigerian is going to tell you no.
I go wrong.
No, there's no need to do that because you don't know if you're not met with maybe insecurity.
Yeah.
Just today we read out like about 558 people already, killed by the flood in Adamawa State. And the crazy thing about this branding and this identity is, these things can happen in just one part of Nigeria.
And it goes round to the nation.
Round. They just make it look like... I think the other time we had a movie director here, and he was talking about how he brought like an A-list actor. He was trying to take him to one part of Nigeria. And people started saying, oh, it's not safe. Nigerians even started saying, it's not safe. If you go there, you're going to get killed and all of that. And that's just maybe something happened at just one part of the entire state, but they just brand the entire state as it's not safe out there, don't go there and all of that. So, I mean, you would have that concern as a father, honestly speaking, that what's he going to face? If he's not met by harsh economic realities, he'll be met by insecurity, or there's just something that, I mean, doesn't just... But yes, beyond this, because it's hard not to rant. To be honest, and to be fair to the average Nigerian, we can't sit here all day and talk about the fact that Nigeria can get better. We believe in Nigeria, but I don't think this is the reality of the person on the streets selling what they can to make to earn a living. And sometimes they are met with even harsher treatments on the road where these goods are being seized, sometimes being destroyed because they're not where they're meant to be. So this is not something that someone on the street can relate to. Now, having in mind the common man, the grassroots of the society, right? How do you think we can start rebranding Nigeria from that level? Because the most negative narrative we'll have will be from people that feel the brunt of the failures in the system much more than every other person. So how do you think we can rebrand the nation from the grassroots before it gets to the top?
Yeah, so I think that, look, I think in all humility, I think that the truth of it is that your point is spot on, that those who are the cutting edge, you are facing the reality of the challenges that we're talking about in a real way, are the ones who carry the heavy load of what we're discussing. I think that one is that we've got to encourage that despite as difficult as it is, that we all need to take a step in the direction of us talking about the good things that we see.
Even when it's difficult.
Even when it's difficult. Even when it's difficult, because if we all talk about what's wrong and we accentuate it in the way that you described earlier, that it goes around, people who are outside looking in, it puts them off. It puts them off. It doesn't help what we're trying to do. So I think that what I would encourage is that just to try to, when we do see things that are going well, to put extra energy in terms of talking about it. If something works, if there's an initiative in a particular area that the government has introduced, or the local or business leaders have introduced, we just have to encourage ourselves along the journey. I have to say this, I lived in the Bariga area some 40 or so years ago, during the time when I lived here, and I went back there in the last few days to go and have a look. And okay, it's a long time, but nonetheless, I mean, one, it was good to see that there was improvement, infrastructure improvement, and the apartment and was standing well maintained. I think sometimes when you listen to some of the stories, it can sound even worse than the reality.
Actually,
And
actually,
Yeah, no doubt
and
about that.
And that's dangerous, because then that's and the reason stories are important is that there's some people, if you ask them about Nigeria, they could talk for half an hour.
Yeah.
And you tell them, well, that's why you're there. Oh, I've never been there. So what are they talking about? They're talking about what they've
Hearsay.
heard,
Yeah.
what people have said to them. So what we say matters. And I know there are ways to do our critique, but we are all responsible for selling this great nation.
Truly.
And if we do a good job selling it, we're all going to benefit from it.
Okay.
And it's an easy sell. Nigeria should be an easy sell. We've got lots of good stories and good characteristics to project to the rest of the world.
But that's amazing.
Right.
Let's have you.
Now we have the National Orientation Agency, whose primary responsibility is to always, inform, educate the people, especially in Nigeria, and to an extent, the bulk of the work of rebranding Nigeria as well has to come from that organization and the federal government. But if you look at the things that this tier, these high-level individuals, those in governance and those working with the NOA, some of the things that they do, you will see that it has not really placed Nigeria in a very good trajectory. So what can they do different? Maybe one or two solutions that we can prefer to them, hoping that they will listen and then implement. What can they do different to rebrand Nigeria?
Yeah. Look, I think that particularly from government and leadership point of view, there are, with power comes responsibility.
Sure.
And there is the possibility to maybe do more about the actual reality of some of the things that we're talking about. So I think that definitely in that area, then whether it's around actually when they make improvements in areas, be it infrastructure, education, or otherwise, I think that to make sure that this is really, the story is told to people and it's tied up in a unified way. So so the policies do not seem somewhat like we're doing good things, but that we're heading somewhere. And it's difficult in political cycle because of the timelines. But definitely I think it's about joining the dots together. That we're going on a journey, we're going somewhere. The individual elements that we can notice are not individual pieces, they're part of a jigsaw. And at a point in time, the jigsaw finally completes.
Right.
Now, to end the conversation, we've had like a very long ride. To end the conversation, if you were in a position where you could influence things as regards branding the identity of Nigeria from a place of power now, what would you do?
Well, one thing for sure is that I would mandate that definitely that all those who have a microphone, who have power, who have a voice, that definitely we have to start to make sure that we speak positively. We accentuate the positive.
Right.
And the second thing is that I would double down the effort in terms of fixing the areas that needs fixing. Be it, accelerate what's happening in infrastructure, what's happening around education and on other areas. And of course, the economic reality for people in terms of just accelerating that economic growth, reduce, all of those elements. But as we bag those wins have got to be wrapped up and crystallized as part of the fact that the brighter future is coming. The brighter future is coming, and this in this story. So we can't just fix and leave. We've got to fix, and we've got to tell the story about all these elements coming together to help Nigeria to become what it's supposed to be.
In other words, keeping Nigerians informed of the things that are happening.
And the story along the way. People can exercise patience if they can see the journey and they can see where we're going.
All right. By now, you already know that it's important to tell the story right.
True.
Not just telling the story. And I like the part where you made mention of the fact that it's not about selling what's not true or what's not in existence. It's also selling what is fair. Because just like there's fraud in Nigeria, there's fraud everywhere else. Just like there's insecurity in Nigeria, we have it in so many other places.
That's right.
But how we tell the story determines how our national outlook, determines our public what the public sees of us, our public perception, in general. And I think this is a call to every Nigerian out there. You might be feeling the brunt of the economic realities that we have in Nigeria. So many things are not working. We're not going to sit here and deny the fact that, so many things are not working. But we also will not turn a blind eye to the fact that some things actually are working. And so maybe while we try to highlight the ones that are not working and hold the government and necessary bodies accountable to changing that, we also should play a part in highlighting the things that are going well. For instance, the entertainment sector, thriving. We sell out. The theaters, we sell out most of the time, right? That is working. We can try to highlight that while we still hold the people that we need to hold accountable. So branding is not about turning a deaf ear or a blind eye to the things that are not working. It's about doing it with so much grace and not deflating the identity of Nigeria. I would say that I had an amazing conversation today. Thank you so much, Mr. Baba, for joining us on the show.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And before we log off, I think it's important that we ask ourselves one question. As Nigerians now, what are you sharing about Nigeria? What are you posting about Nigeria? What is the story that you're telling about Nigeria? We don't want to live in denial, but again, just like Martha noted, there is a lot of good things happening in our country, Nigeria. Let's tell those stories as much as possible. If you love Nigeria, prove it. Talk about it. Do not just sell Nigeria short. I believe we're a lot more better than the Nigerian princes. That is the fraudulent activities that we're being branded for. We're a lot more than that. And if we tell our stories right, just like our guest has been talking about here, we can as well position ourselves for the opportunities that are there for us in the world, globally, and of course in the future.
So we can say that Monday was 10 over 10?
10 over 10.
Yeah, Monday was 10 over 10. Had a good time today, and we'll be heading out right about now. But before we go, remember we're active across social media platforms, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, which is now X, and on TikTok.
On TikTok, right?
Yeah, and Cynthia will always say we're not dancing on TikTok. We're doing what we got to do there.
Yeah.
So engage with us, like, share, subscribe. And of course, you can rewatch all our episodes on YouTube at Official Rapid TV. The socials are at Rapid TV. Then it's also important that you know that you can go everywhere with us with our website, www.rbnradiotv.com. I am Martha Alu. You can call me Martha.
And I am Victor. Okay, thank you so much for being with us today. We'll see you tomorrow.
This is Rapid Broadcasting Network, RBN. We connect people, power stories, and amplify voices. On Rapid TV, we're rooted in culture and your window to the stories that matter. From news to lifestyle, we inform, entertain, and uplift. Join Rapid TV on Star Times Channel 176, Nightcom Sat. On Rapid FM, we speak your language from the soulful airwaves of Umuahia to the vibrant culture of Port Harcourt and beyond. More than broadcasters, we're creators, amplifying that voice within with powerful content across TV, radio, and digital. Join us at rbnradiotv.com and all our social media handles. One network, one voice. Rapid Broadcasting Network, RBN, the sound of your city. Rooted in truth, driven by impact.
My name is Akio Sakido.
Hey guys, this is Anto Lecky.
My name is Leo Bliss.
My name is Akava. I go by the name Baba D.
And you're tuned into Rapid TV. And I love Rapid TV.
Shout out
Rapid TV. Thank you, Rapid TV. Please keep watching
Rapid TV.
This is Rapid TV.
Rapid.
Rapid TV.
Keep watching.
Keep it down.
Leave it like that.